Good morning, everybody. I'm Stacy with Stacy's Organizing and Decorating for Life. I'm here to help you organize your thoughts and decorate your perspectives. So today our topic is going to be about regrets. Should we have them? So if you like that's our topic today, please hit the like and subscribe button below. Before we get started, I want to welcome you back. If you watch or listen to these videos on a weekly basis, I sure do love and appreciate you, and I appreciate your input. Like as in today's topic, someone had suggested this topic to me, and I'm not going to say their name because I don't have permission, and what people tell me is in confidence, but I want to thank Jay. It's not the name, it's just an initial, for who, recommended that we cover this today. Because I know that when one person is feeling something, there are many feeling something. In this particular topic, I think that it's like excuses. We've all had them, and we all have regrets. So should we have them? But I also want to let you know, if you have not been to this channel before, that I'm not a doctor, a psychologist, a psychiatrist in the medical field of any sort, or scientific. But sometimes what I learn about those things, I may share with you, thinking that if it helped me, it might help you too. What I am is a life coach, though, and I have a webpage called stacyforlife.com. On this webpage, I write a monthly blog, and I just wrote one about Reiki, and I invite and encourage you to check that out. It's one of the healing arts. And there's a description as well of the services that I provide as a life coach. So I invite and encourage you to check that out. It's really about going within to feel comfortable in our own skin, so that we can have healing and healthy relationships, as well as development of spiritual and soul consciousness. So thank you very much. Please check it out, stacyforlife.com. So to get into our topic today, regrets. Should we have them? We have regrets when we're in hurt and pain, grieving. Grieving is a huge one. We have regrets. Some have them immediately, and then sometimes we don't get regrets until later. It's oftentimes after we have a mistake or something, and mistakes are just meant to be corrected. So then we may have regrets. We have regrets as parents, as partners, as co-workers, as friends. Everyone is able to have regrets. And, when I first had this topic, suggested that I was going to work on this topic. Look, it's early in the morning. When I first suggested I was going to work on this topic, I had someone say, well, we shouldn't have them, should we? First off, rule number one is what I learned in therapy is we should not should on ourselves, and anything that we're having, we need to be having. It's a need, because what it is cause and effect. It's not that we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. It's a cause and effect of our thoughts. And we will have regrets. I know that we have a saying in recovery that says that we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. But the real thing is that we wouldn't even be in recovery if we didn't have regrets. I mean, maybe we don't realize them when we get there. Like I said, some have them sooner and some have them later. So let's take a look at the regrets. A regret is the emotion. When you look it up on the internet, the regret is the emotion of wishing one had made a different decision in the past because the consequences of the decision were unfavorable. Again, it goes back to a cause and effect. And we as parents and as partners, as friends, have done things. Maybe regrets are like losing our temper, being negligent, and making poor decisions. Those are things that we regret, right? So oftentimes we hear people say that people regret getting caught. Thing is we just simply regret making mistakes, and mistakes are a learning tool. They're neither good or bad. We're human beings, and we're going to make mistakes. If we make excuses for our mistakes, then we aren't learning from our mistakes. We're just excusing our mistakes. So there are some, so when you say, well, they're not good or bad, well, if we keep repeating the same mistake, it's just insanity, and it's not a correction. Mistakes are made to be corrected. That's all. That's the cause and effect, is we wouldn't know we needed to correct something if we didn't know, what made it. And so then we get to look at the cause. So that's when we get in the process. Regret can be good because it means that you have a conscience, and that you can feel when something hasn't worked out right or anything like that. However, regret can be bad if it, like I said, it's just done in excuses and self-pity and people stay stuck there. See, then we turn into a martyr. So that's not what we were intended to do here. We're supposed to learn from our mistakes. And so the opposite, so if you don't have regret, where do you want to get to? Because, this is the thing when we chart a map, and our lives are kind of like a map, as we get to see how everything connects. If you read that post I did about Reiki, when I took karate, I didn't know I was going to learn about the chi, being able to look through things and look through obstacles. And those things have helped me to be a life coach, is to be able to see beyond and see past things, and those techniques that I learned to do that with just breaking boards and bricks helped me to break through barriers and obstacles in the mind too. So it's very helpful, how everything can be connected. So the opposite of regret is being content and being satisfied. Who doesn't want to feel content and satisfied? But it's oftentimes people feel content and satisfied with their own behaviors till, like I said, they get caught. And then when we do get caught, do we just make a blanket apology of I'm sorry for my bad behavior, as I said before in a prior video, or do we adjust our behavior? Do we really look at, say if you get into an argument with somebody, if they just say a blanket statement, well, it's going to happen again. So how to become content and satisfied is this: there's no magic wheel where you can go back in the past like the butterfly effect and actually change the behavior to be something else. But what we can do is change ourselves and change the effects of the behavior through our own actions today. We have in recovery what we call amends, where we can say, just like I just said, is we apologize for our behavior. So that would be an amends. Sometimes we're not able to make amends. Sometimes we're not able to speak out. Say that, you have a person who is already a martyr and struggling, and they've chosen to stay there, because there is that, and that where people just stay stuck in the regret, they stay stuck in the pain, because the pain becomes comfortable after so long, So there's some people that do that, and so sometimes we can't make an amends to those people verbally because it will just feed that pain, that martyrdom. What we can do then is make a living amends, because we can't go back and change our past behavior. What we can do to correct our behavior is to change our behavior today, to suit up and show up, and let our words mean what we say. So we show, and it takes a while. People are really human beings. We love instant gratification. So just because, say, we get into recovery right away, or we get into something, we change our behavior, and we say that our behavior is changing right away, and just because we don't get the applause or the kudos for it right away, oftentimes people have a tendency to slip back. We have a tendency to slip back into our old behavior, but how we develop integrity is by following through with what we say we're going to do. That's what I said. We mean what we say. We follow through with what we say we're going to do. And we don't say things that we're going to do if we don't mean it. This is why boundaries work and walls don't work, because that's an important part of regrets, is that we learn boundaries, because it's about forgiveness. And boundaries and forgiveness go together, because we learn to forgive ourselves for where we deemed ourselves small and fell short prior. Where we may have not acted in the best way for our highest good, where we allowed ourselves and others to have resentment with us because of the motivations and intentions we may have carried. We may have thought they were good, but when we do this soul-seeking, the soul-searching, we find out where we were self-seeking, where what that we figured, try to figure out, well, what's in it for me? And when we do that, then we're able to get more clarity of who and what we are, and to realize and have compassion for others who are struggling too. It doesn't mean that we have to succumb ourselves. So that's why I mean we have to have boundaries as well. The boundaries, can be gentle. We start off with gentle oftentimes. And I know for myself, if my boundaries are overlooked, I'm going to blow up, and then make a decision, because I'm not going to keep blowing up about the same thing over and over. So that, again, we go back to regrets, is that if, we have a regret, we correct it, So I just hope that you understand that we all have regrets. We all do. It's normal for us to have regrets, for us to maybe not have had our proudest moments. Maybe we weren't the parent that was there all the time, and we were probably doing the best that we could. I know I put, a personal story was my daughter went to an art school and I was a single mom, so I wasn't one of the stage moms there. So oftentimes I wasn't there like some of the other moms was, And there's been other times I wished I've lost my son, and I see the mother and son dances at the weddings, and that just breaks my heart. I wish I would have gotten to dance more with my son, but I can't change that now. But what I can do is I can remember, my son when I dance. I can show up for my daughter when she allows me now, and do those things. So that's how we correct our behavior, is we try to seek out what can we do, where can I show up? And then we have to have, like I mentioned the serenity prayer last week, the wisdom to know the difference, because it doesn't also mean that we are a doormat. This is where a lot of people make mistakes with regrets too, is that they become a doormat, if they're carrying that guilt and regret around, then people will notice that energy of that guilt and regret, and it seems like they keep poking the bear, poking you. It seems like, that you keep having a reaction to it because it's coming up for our healing. It's to come up to know how divine that we really are, even mistakes and all with our flaws. So it's very important to find a person when you're going through this process, to be able to listen to you and offer you compassion. Because we don't know how to give ourselves compassion, because things that we regret are often passed down to us. Say if we are negligent. Maybe somebody was negligent with us before, so then we become negligent because that's a learned behavior, because that was somebody we loved that was negligent with us. So that's a learned behavior. So we understand what is learned and needs to be unlearned through a process of healing. Chances are that person may or may not have ever acknowledged that behavior. So we don't know a compassionate way to approach ourselves and others in correcting that behavior in the future. And I believe that what we correct now transcends into the future, the DNA, and the whole energy. Because like I said, when we carry regret and guilt, people feel that. And that's why we keep re-feeling the same feelings until we heal it. So finding a compassionate person to listen to us, to remind us of who we are, where we did good and where we did not, where we showed up and where we didn't show up, where we, can do better, how we can learn different skills about how we can cope and communicate with another person when we fall short. Because if you don't cope and communicate with boundaries, then you're just suppressing and building it up again to where it's going to manifest either in your health or in your relationships. It just has a trickle effect. So get into alignment. When we talk about alignment, we're talking about getting clear and getting rid of those guilt and regrets, and having an authentic and organic bunch of people that you're able to laugh at yourself with. We oftentimes in our regret and guilt, we find people to cry with until we, wear that out, and then we don't have anybody, then we're alone. That's why I do these videos, because I've felt that way before. I have felt alone, and I have just cried to myself, but there comes a time when we get sick and tired of being sick and tired, of hearing the same thing over and over. So to have somebody repeat compassionate things to us is healing for us. It helps us get a new inner dialogue, because we're not as good or as bad as we think that we are, because sometimes we tend to go from this side to this side, back and forth. That'll just wear us out. And when I talk about alignment, we're able to look at our mistakes and get into acceptance of, I did the best that I could with what I knew at the time, but I'm willing to grow and know better at this time, and to be able to act differently, because that changes the whole energy. Because when you forgive yourself, you're walking around with an energy of forgiveness. And so people are attracted to that energy of forgiveness, because we all at some time or another in our life need forgiveness. Because we're all human and we all make mistakes. It's important that we learn from them. So once we start doing a self-discovery and recovery of our regrets, then we can start realizing, when was the last time that I felt this way? And sometimes it might have been last week. Sometimes it might have been 35 years ago, as that's what I've been experiencing lately. And I didn't even remember it. We have a chapter in one of the books in recovery that says more will be revealed. And see, this is the part of healing is, they say that God will only reveal to you what you can handle at the time. And so sometimes it's part of our adventure and our journey through our growth and our self-discovery, because what we realize is, like, this topic of regret was extended from somebody, but they're not the only one feeling this. It is an energy. So there's many people who need to hear about the topic of regret. And so having that person with compassion to work through and process this with is very important. And so I posted something on Facebook. When I was thinking about this topic, I come up with something in my head, so hold on just a second. So if you don't follow me on Facebook, I invite you to. It's Stacy Renee, or Stacy's Organizing and Decorating for Life. So I posted, in my prayer this morning, I had a divine thought that I thought might go along as part of the process that we will talk about Thursday. So here it is. That's how we find the God within, is to keep digging up our own sin. Because we all fall short and miss the mark, because that's what a sin is. So sometimes people's relationship with higher power isn't as personal as we may repeat what we heard, just like the person who I first, suggested this to, who said, oh, we're not supposed to have regrets, are we? Well, that's just repeating what we've heard, because we hear don't have regrets and all of this, but realistically, so, a personal relationship is not looking at and comparing the sins of others, because oftentimes that's how we learn how in our learned behavior to esteem ourselves is comparing ourselves to another person. Well, at least, in all of this. So comparing ourselves to somebody else. Regrets are usually a catalyst of transformation. We do have regrets, and they're catalysts for transformation. That's what I think that we were put here on earth to do, is to create and evolve and to be what we want to see. So when you get real, people, they understand that they're real too, and that's what the attraction is, when we are able to go beyond the intellectual thoughts about what we've learned and actually feel these things and create. So I ask you today, before we close this video, some questions. This is what I learned, what I learned, and how my misbehaviors, how to behave in a more divine way, that was more approachable, that was not coming from old wounds. Is, when I was in my therapy or life coach, it would be like, how could I have done better? This is one way that we, when we have regrets, we say, how could I have done better? So when we see how we could have done better, we say, what could I change? What would I change? And how can I fix or amend it? Like I said, we have to apologize, but when we apologize, we need to make it up, follow it up with a changed behavior. We can't keep apologizing and expect somebody to believe us when we're apologizing for something over and over again, but the behavior hasn't changed. And really, I see some people, they'll keep apologizing for the same thing over and over, even when they're changing the behavior, because they're still carrying that guilt, because they haven't learned the compassion of forgiveness of themselves. And so when others do the same thing, whether it be neglect or, tempers or what have you, then they tend to take it on once more, take it on again, keep taking it on until it just beats them down. We don't have to keep beating ourselves up, and we don't have to allow others to beat us up. We have to feel our feelings and heal from them and stand in our truth. And our truth is subject to change at different times. That's why I don't like labels, is our truth may change at different times in our lives. So I hope that this video has been helpful, and I hope that you will heal from your regrets. We make mistakes. We're human. And to be able to correct and align ourselves with our good and look back, when did I make this mistake last time? What am I re-feeling? Because oftentimes regrets can lead to resentments, and what am I re-feeling? I like when we do because it gives us the time to re-examine, to reevaluate where we are at this lifetime. So all the re's back up, to one another. And so, even when we do a retrograde, it's going backwards. We feel like we're going backwards. So it's okay that we go backwards, but we need to learn how to go forwards too, so that we can live and be content and satisfied, because that's really what the divine wishes us to be anyway, is content and satisfied. And we'll be content and satisfied until we're not. If you didn't get a chance to see last week's video, it should probably pop up at the end of this video, and I encourage you to check it out. So thank you very much for your time today. It's valuable. You are valuable, and I appreciate you visiting this channel each and every week. And I do hope that this video has been beneficial to you. If you do indeed have regrets, I pray that you're not staying stuck in them, because you are so worthy of living a full life and not carrying that with you, not carrying that guilt and regret around. Find a compassionate person that you can talk to, that can teach you to have compassion for yourself. That yes, we can agree when you've done wrong, but when we can not isolate ourselves and keep condemning ourselves for the same mistake, we can expand and realize that, probably none of us are getting the mother or partner or coworker or the friend of the year reward. Maybe we are, but it doesn't matter. It's what our motivation and intention is now, today. So I wish you much peace and love, and I do hope that you will like and subscribe if you have not, and that you'll share this if you feel that it'll help somebody else. And I thank you so much for watching, and I appreciate all the support that I get. Thank you all who donate to this channel, who share these videos, who like and subscribe, who even just send good vibes. I appreciate you, and I love you, and I hope that you'll have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. And I look forward to connecting with you again next week. Bye.